Hi folks, today we're going to be looking at the Blackview Ultra A6, which is a quad-core Android handset to 1.3 gigahertz. I'm laughing for a particular reason, which we'll get to. 30 megapixel camera on the rear, microSD support, etc, etc. Well, so what, I hear you ask? Well, this is an iPhone 6 clone. So if we have a look at it, we'll see that it's designed to look exactly like an iPhone 6. Simple as that, really, down to the gold rear. You want to see how closer to an iPhone 6 it is? Let's have a look at a real iPhone 6 and this next door. Let me see if I can just get this up and running in a second. There you go. Which one is the iPhone 6? Now, you know, you've probably seen a few iPhone clones before in the time. We've reviewed some of the early ones, but this one has a bit of a difference. First, let's see what's in the box. So in the box you get a nice little protective case to make sure you don't break anything. A little get started guide, which is simplistic but should get you going, you know, as far as you need to go. Screen protectors, of course, screen guards, essential. A adapter and a microSD card which goes in there, I think, yeah, and a OTG cable so you can add accessories like external drives or USB cards or USB drives or whatever. A set of headset and a power plug, and of course a USB power cable. So it's fully equipped with just about everything you need. Well, in fact, more than you need if you class the screen guards and everything. Now, this is how it comes out of the box when you power it on. So you're seeing the familiar Android look as opposed to the Apple iPhone look. But the clever thing about this box is if you go into the Android settings, down here you'll find a little iOS button. Just hit that and you'll do a reboot. Let's see what happens when you come out of the reboot. Okay, well, the reboot takes around 10 to 12 seconds, so it's quite a lengthy one, and you can see why when I just run up the UI. Gone is the Android look, and we have instead very much a sort of a Apple look. Yes, it comes with its own mimicking Apple UI, which is quite. Now you're saying, wait, hey, that's really dodgy. And I mean, it's full on. I mean, let's take it a bit further and go into the settings, as we would do. And there's the settings for this the Ultra. And if I go into the settings for the actual iPhone, you'll see that there's not that much difference. I mean, this is it's cheeky to the extreme, I have to say. I mean, absolutely. But for people who have maybe broken their iPhone or lost it or had it stolen and they need a replacement, a cheap replacement, because let's not forget that the price of this Blackview Ultra, which is ridiculously cheap, I mean, it's $100 or something like that. You know, when you consider the price of this as a replacement phone, I would say, wow. You know, we're talking 1.3 quad-core, 1280 by 720, which is just a little bit less resolution than you'd find on the iPhone 6. It has a 13 megapixel rear camera as opposed to the iPhone's 8 megapixel, but of course, you know, we all know that the Apple's camera is rather superior. But anyway, you have a little bit of extra thickness. I think it's a couple of millimeters thicker than the iPhone in operation. The one major difference with this is, of course, being an Android box, you can take the back off. And you've got dual SIM. So there's one SIM there, and there's a second SIM, then the microSD up to 32 gigabytes, which you can put there. The phone has also, the Ultra has another little trick which is really quite clever, in that it has a back scroll, what's called a back scroll function, so you can use it with your finger as opposed to having to scroll from the front, up and down, so it's both sideways, which, you know, for one finger use in the cold weather, it can be quite quite handy. Of course, being an Android phone, underneath all the fancy skin, it has the same sort of Android utilities that you'd expect. So you get SIM management for the dual SIMs, so you can add in your extra SIM and allocate data to one or the other. There's only one SIM showing at the moment, and it has all the other bits and pieces. For instance, if I want to change the order of my icons, it's pretty easy to do. All I do is drag and drop, which I suspect you're not going to be able to do that easily with the iPhone 6, but it's quite clever. But the fascinating thing, of course, is this allows any iPhone refugee, to have a really simple way of getting the benefit of a low-cost phone at the right price and still remain, kind of familiar with the UI. I mean, it's quite brilliant, really. I mean, which is the iPhone and which is the clone? That's what I have to ask you. It's very hard to tell. There you go. I mean, you can feel that the difference is quite a little bit heavier, and of course thicker than the iPhone 6. Yes, this is the iPhone 6. You can tell it has no back touch. It just has the Apple logo on it. And just to prove that even as a clone it has its own sophisticated features, here's an update. A new version's available of the firmware, which I can update right now by downloading and installing. Now that's something that proves that the phone is actually more than just a dirty little cheap knockoff. They've actually thought about the operating system and all that kind of stuff. So how is it as an actual phone? Forget about the iPhone a bit about it. Well, it's pretty hot. You get full access to the Play Store. So access to all the apps. There's no limitation there. The browsing and the things like that are pretty slick in all ways. They really go well. So you've got full access to maps, to all the bits and pieces, and it runs pretty fast. The other thing you have on the Ultra that you don't have on the iPhone is under here in general settings, you get a hot knot, which is basically allow you to give data exchange when two screens touch. I'm assuming you have to have another phone with hot knot on it, or because I haven't got another one, so I can't test that out really. The phone is running, the Blackview is running 4.4.2 Android KitKat, so it's fully up to date. But overall, I have to say that looking at the two, it's a very, very nice implementation. The best we've seen, basically because the phone is so good. The phone, for the price, the phone really does do the job very well. As I say, we've been trying it out for a while now, and it rocks in terms of things like doing GPS navigation. The satellite lock is fast. Here we are playing a standard YouTube video in HD, and as you can see, it handles that pretty nicely. The quad core doesn't seem to have too much problem. It's got 1 gigabytes of RAM, so it's not fully loaded with RAM, but there again, it doesn't seem to make any difference to the general overall performance in this case. We like also the fact that the battery drain is pretty good on this. We're continually monitoring the battery, and it is actually a very, very mean user of the battery. So you can easily get a day's use out of the 2000 milliamp hour battery that comes with this phone, as opposed to the 1330 milliamp hour battery in the iPhone 6, which, as most users will realize, doesn't last that long under sustained use. What about the camera? Well, with a 13 megapixel camera on there, you've got a fairly good shooter to be going on with, especially when you consider it's a budget phone. The shots will be pretty crisp. I'll put some full-blown demos up on the review, so you'll be able to see them in more clarity. But from what we're seeing, it's pretty good actually. See if I can find it. There's, that's not rubbish by any stretch. It's not horrible. It's the surprise is this phone is actually really, really quite good. And when you're tired of playing with it in Apple mode, just hit the iOS button at the bottom there, and you'll get a reboot back into good old KitKat Android. Sure, you'll have to wait a few seconds, but hey, well, that's a small price to pay for being able to go backwards and forwards at will depending upon your mood, really. It's a great way to introduce Apple iPhone users to Android as well, because of course they can change in and out as they wish and just see what the differences really are like. This Ultra A6 is a cracking phone, even in its own right as an Android phone, and for the price we say yes, that's definitely a winner. Throw in the iOS mimicking, and it's actually mind-blowing how they've done this for the price, I have to say. So if you've enjoyed this video, please like it and share it and subscribe to our channel so we can bring you more cool stuff. Thanks very much.